जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम everyone. Welcome on board Janab Ashaar Saab, Dr. Huma and Mr. Faraz. Thank you for joining us today. Our topic for today is IBA taking the legacy forward. और जो ऑडियंस हमें देख रहे हैं ख़ास तौर पे मेरी उनसे रिक्वेस्ट है कि मेक इट इंटरेक्टिव. आप अपने कमेंट्स और अपने क्वेश्चंस लिंक्डइन, फेसबुक और यूट्यूब पे डाल सकते हैं और वही तमाम क्वेश्चंस जो है वो ऑन स्क्रीन भी अपेयर होंगे सो दैट आवर
I think we've lost Shehzad Saab. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining in. So Shehzad Saab, I believe we wanted to start off with the idea of legacy that we want to take forward, and that can be best explained by somebody who is already taking a step forward to contest for a position that would contribute to the legacy. So I would like to introduce Ashaar Saab, who is a graduate of 1992 and has got an experience of 28 years with different industries. So Ashaar Saab, starting off with you, can you please shed some light on the legacy that we want to take forward, and what is that legacy?
Thank you very much, Faraz, and thank you, Shehzad, if you are hearing us. I think IBA as a whole, it's one of the greatest legacies that the country has to offer. The way it has contributed to the growth and progress of the corporate world by providing graduates from last 67 years, I think that is unparalleled. And the quality of graduates, the way they have performed, the way they have contributed, not only within Pakistan, but outside Pakistan as well. And they are the great strength of IBA also. So IBA has a great legacy. IBA has been a flag bearer of a lot of things which were quite unprecedented in the country and which are still kind of unprecedented when it comes to observing discipline, when it comes to lately under Dr. Ishrat and Dr. Huma was dean at that time, the infrastructural improvement, the faculty development, bringing in world-class faculty. I think IBA has gone from strength to strength, but this legacy has to be reinforced. And that's the reason why we see this time in the election of IBA's Board of Governors, a lot of IBA grads and alumni are taking keen interest in it. 6 people are contesting it. And I think that is the reason that all of a sudden it's a very healthy thing that we are looking at, that everyone is trying to contribute with their bit and trying to build this legacy further and reinforce it. So yes, IBA has a lot of contributions which has turned it into a real legacy.
Thank you, Ashaar. And I think one great point from the entire conversation, the key point is the strength of IBA. And that is to be reinforced and that is to be firmed up. I mean, with that, I would like to also introduce Dr. Huma, chief guest for today. And so having worked very closely with Dr. Ishrat and having a great insight of IBA, I mean, what do you think of IBA as a present, and how this was contributing to the industry, to the academia, to the economy in the past, and how do we want to take it forward, Dr. Huma Baqai?
Thank you so much for having all the alumni who are contesting for elections. And I'm so glad there's so much interest out there, which essentially means that the alumni not only own the institution, but want to step in to make sure that the legacy continues. So this ownership is very encouraging for a person like me. All of you who are contesting these elections have probably spent 4 to 5 years at IBA. I have spent 16 years at IBA. And I have seen IBA becoming what it is today. I've seen the expansion. I have seen that when you talk about IBA becoming a brand, which it always was, by the way, but what I've seen is that it's not just the physical infrastructure that we should talk about, because essentially what has happened is the growth of the academic infrastructure of IBA. An institution which was actually discouraged from PhDs to joining it to now boosting as having the most number of PhDs teaching in various programs is something very proud of. And I've seen how it came about. I see how it happened. And as far as you see, and I also have this distinction of perhaps working with the four executive directors. So when I was inducted in IBA, when I took up this position, I was only there for 2 years. I'd moved in from Karachi University, and it was Dr. Danishman Saab who took me in. And then, of course, Dr. Ishrat came, and then there was no looking back. And then subsequently, I also worked with Dr. Farooq Iqbal, and I also had the honor of working with Dr. Akbar Zevi for 2 years, I think. And one of those years was my last leg as an associate dean. So I've also seen this. So one thing that I want to put forward here is that, yes, Dr. Ishad IBA, what he did, and I'll share something interesting with you. I was in a conversation with the president of our a competitor, so to say, and he was good-hearted enough to say that we were going to leave IBA behind, and he meant as a business school until Ishrat happened to IBA. And he says that openly. So I think we can't thank Dr. Ishrat enough for the turnaround that IBA experienced and putting IBA back not only on the educational landscape of Karachi, but perhaps this country and globally. I think the alumni network has also grown. There is now an alumni department which constantly works at cultivating them, and it has triggered this interest, and all of you are able to connect. So I think that is wonderful, and that should continue to happen. But when I talk about legacy, IBA was known for its exclusivity. We produced very few graduates in our initial years. We were the first business school out of North America. We took a lot of pride in that. We took very few students. We churned out very few students. And those very few students then became the ambassadors of our IBA and actually turned it into a brand. Over the years, expanded. Expansion is very good, but I also think that only expansion without consolidation uh, can become a baggage. So sometimes I wonder that the expansions that have happened at IBA, are we consolidating and are we investing in them enough in them, both academically and otherwise, to make sure that the brand does not get diluted? So a lot of people have this worry about IBA, that has this expansion caused a dilution. I think it has not set in now, but it may set in. So one of the things that I want to put forward is this, that expansion is fantastic, but I think it should not happen at the cost of the brand. More importantly, another thing that I have experienced is that the maximum growth that IB experienced was under Dr. Ishrat. And because Dr. Ishrat had an uninterrupted 8 years at IBA. So what is critically important is an element of continuity. Because as most institutions that have emerged as islands of excellence, especially in the public sector, it is largely because a certain individual was able to do it. Dr. Ishrat was able to do it. He also institutionalized those changes, and the momentum carried IBA forward. But I think it is now time that we also consolidate this institutionalization and carry it forward. The momentum can take you only this much. You need to constantly invest in it to take the legacy forward. The competition in the market is growing. There are a lot of new schools coming. We are now competing with something we usually do not talk about, and those are transnational education, where foreign education is being offered in a lot of campuses in Karachi here, and the price point of that is same as perhaps IBA. So I think with all of that is happening, consolidating the academic brand is extremely important. Element of continuity is extremely important. IBA should not become a laboratory of experiments and individual wins. And that sometimes worries me if that is happening. Moreover, with 25 years of teaching experience and 10 years in positions of academic leadership, which I was able to achieve this experience because of being at IBA, because both Dr. Ishrat and Farooq Iqbal trusted me with positions of academic leadership. I I firmly believe that IBA should do some correct. Some inward looking should take place. And more important, the critical balance between the academic component and how they should not be in competition with each other but complement each other. So this tug of war that I witnessed at IBA between streams has also perhaps resulted in of the brand, and that is my major concern here. IBA is not just a legacy; it's an asset for Pakistan. And I don't think we can let it go. I don't think we can allow it to slide downwards. And the concerns, the attributes that were just pointed out, which was academic discipline, academic growth, and now when we are trying to find a balance between all of these and perhaps academic freedom, are we somehow losing out on what IBA was known for? The corporate grooming, the fact that a student entered as A and when he left IBA, he definitely had the stamp of somebody who had spent 4 years or 2 years at IBA, and it had become a part of who he was. He had internalized IBA, and when he went or entered the corporate sector, that allowed him to just take. So all of them were our ambassadors. We've expanded, we're taking in a lot of people. Are we churning out the same quality of students? I think so. These are critical points that must be discussed and addressed when we talk about the legacy, the vision. What do we see IBA in 10 years? Is it just about utilizing the academic infrastructure that has expanded, or it is to make sure that the physical infrastructure that, or to make sure that academic consolidation happens? We don't just expand, we remain as good as we were. Our ambassadors who now are graduates, who are ambassadors when they touch the market, do they carry forward the same image and brand equity that IBA was known for? More importantly, perhaps we live in a different world today. So the interface between the academia and industry is critical. Is that just an element of lip service, or is it really happening at IBA? And I think those are questions that need to be honestly addressed and answered to take this legacy forward. What is our vision? How do we see? Do we just see IBA expanding and growing, or do we see IBA carrying on the brand, carrying on for what it was known for? What kind of students are we taking in? Is there a dilution there? What kind of students are we churning out? Do they, all of them, come up to the brand fit we used to call IBA? We take pride in the fact that 12,000 students apply and only 1,100 get in. And that is perhaps better than Ivy League. It is because IBA is IBA, or because Pakistan is a demographic pressure cooker and alternatives are very few. So becoming complacent is not a possibility. I'll be very happy to answer questions if there are some. Hello?
I think we lost Shazad again. Thank you very much.
Hear me through.
So I think one thing that I picked really onto is the exclusivity that we used to have. So with that exclusivity being on, I think we need to also maintain the belongingness. So if there are many people coming out of the institute, the belongingness and the quality that has to be maintained, and that has to come out of the alumni, and the alumni has to support that quality and that belongingness. So Ashaar Saab, how are we as alumni maintaining it, and do we see any plans to maintain that belongingness in the people of IBA, and that the talent that is coming out in the market, how will that be ensured, the quality of the alumni? You need to unmute yourself, Asha.
Thank you very much, Faraz. Just to build on what Dr. Huma has said, and I think she has given a real big picture challenges faced by IBA at this point in time. When she talks about exclusivity, the intake, the academic excellence. So what I see, and I've been hiring IBA alumni grads from last roughly around 20 years, and I definitely see a deterioration in quality. And I think somewhere on the way started preferring quantity over quality, and that is quite visible. Yes, there are one-offs, there are exceptions, but still we have not been able to maintain the same quality that we used to take pride in, and that which converted IBA into a legacy. So that is there, and that is precisely the reason I have divided my manifesto into three areas of interest for IBA. One relates to the institution itself, is strengthening the systems, the best practices observed by international academic institutions. Talking about culture and discipline, that's very close to my heart, being an HR professional. And then, other than institution, we need to focus on students, which comes to curriculum, which comes to developing a certain mindset that relates to entrepreneurship and startups. That also relates to their mentoring. आई थिंक तरबियत जो है वो बड़ा ही कलीदी किरदार अदा करती है, और वो तरबियत बहुत मिसिंग नजर आ रही है. IBA grads still are quite, I would say, educated. They are quite equipped with the subject knowledge, but how to approach it, डॉक्टर हुमा ने बात की एटीट्यूड की और एक कॉर्पोरेट ग्रूमिंग की, that comes through mentoring and coaching and counseling of these young boys and girls coming out as grads. So I think that is the missing link. And when we talk about alumni, the heart of IBA, I would say so. Alumni, and she again, I would take a bit from what Dr. Huma said, and rightly so. The industry academia linkage is definitely a lip service. I mean, I'll take my own example, that having been an HR professional for last now 20 plus years, having been HR head of 5 organizations, training head of 3 large banks, have worked internationally, I think I have never been contacted by IBA even once to come in and mentor or counsel the outgoing graduates, the outgoing class. So and also other than that, I mean, I am just one person who is representing IBA in the corporate world. There are stalwarts. There are people whom all of us can be proud of, even as Pakistanis, and they are nowhere. I mean, we need to institute a practice that can acknowledge IBA grads working globally. We need to institute IBA awards who can acknowledge the people who have been associated with IBA in any capacity, not only as alumni, but also as faculty, as teachers, as deans. They should be called in and they should be decorated and they should be acknowledged, so that this legacy can be strengthened with the help of those who have stepped out. They still love IBA, they have a passion for IBA, they want to come back. But some of the people, not all, I mean, I am perhaps one of those who would like to return, who would like to chip in with my bit. But there are many. अल्लाह ताला ने सबको जुदा पैदा किया है, अलग अलग पैदा किया है, या God was never short on molds and designs. But there are some people who want to be contacted and who want to come back and contribute, but that's not the case. So we really need to strengthen the alumni bit of the IBA as well, other than the student and the institution bit. Thank you very much.
But just to add to what Ashaar just said, I think we all love IBA. IBA sort of lives in all of us, and not just the alumni, also the faculty. This sense of ownership is very critical, and this sense of ownership was also cultivated by Dr. Ishrat, where everyone owned IBA. I think IBA became IBA the way it is perceived today is because he created this sense of ownership, and then where everybody felt that they are stakeholders. So I think that element needs to be consolidated. IBA is amazing. It's legendary. And it is still it is an island of excellence. I also think that this excellence must proliferate. But I also wonder if there is an element of have we become complacent in some ways? Have we started taking a lot for granted? Is the corporate grooming, which Mohammed Ashaar just spoke about, not being seen as a critical element for the graduates, and is the industry reacting to it negatively? So I think those are elements that need to rethink about. how and because I've worked with Dr. Ishrat far more closely than and Dr. Farooq Iqbal, uh, how soft skills and critical skills that are critical to the market, we it was made sure that they were incorporated in the stream of the academic teaching and academic grooming that happened at IBA. If I wonder, because of the expansion that has happened, that is being compromised in some ways. I also wonder that if the classroom audits and the disciplines that were maintained, which ensured that every graduate took what he or she was supposed to get from IBA, is that happening? So I don't think people are not committed to IBA. I think the alumni, the faculty, the staff, everybody is committed to IBA. They all take a lot of pride in being associated with IBA. IBA is still going places and doing things. Every time something good happens at IBA, we all feel proud. A lot of people at IBA are making us proud. But I think that the consolidation that must have happened with the expansion has been compromised to a certain extent. And that is my personal view. And if you're talking about taking the legacy forward, I think that should be the pitch.
Dr. Huma, when you said we love IBA, I actually felt it, because we all do love IBA. And the reason being that it has changed the lives of people. And I think everybody's got a story. And we all need to celebrate it. And this impact that the IBA is generated into the lives of people, that has to be celebrated. So with that, I think we had a question which we have to address. So the question
Faraz,
is, what is
Faraz, before we take a question, I mean, you being a grad of 2019, am I right?
that is right.
What's your feel of, I mean, what we have said? How much do you relate to that, or how much do you agree with it?
So I think the sense of belongingness that is there, and we all enjoy it, and we all love it when we meet again at IBA. So we all friends meet outside IBA. That is happening. That has always happened. But when we gather at IBA, so that is a different feeling altogether, because that is the place that we all were nourished at, and that is the place that we all gotten the improvement, all the communication skills, all the competencies that we have developed for ourselves today. So we all enjoy it, number one, and we all want to contribute, and we all want to stay connected. So I think that is something that we need to work on. We need to have some platforms where we can come back and connect, because I think the world is now not dependent or independent. The world is now interdependent, and we need to take leverage of it. So all IBA people have developed different strengths over time, and rather than working on the weaknesses, we need to work on the strengths that we have and take leverage of it. So yes, we want to come back, we want to contribute, and we also want to be called, like Ashaar, you said, we also want to be called back.
Great. We had a question, I think. I'd actually want to respond to that.
So the question was, what has been the key success factor of IBA over the years? So is it been the quality of education, or the alumni that we have produced, or if there's anything else that has
Of
contributed
course.
to the success?
I mean, absolutely. It has been the quality of education. It is also the kind of people we attracted to IBA. And the fact that our alumni went places, continue to go places, where IBA is seen as a door to success. All of those factors. But I think the key factor is, which we've not touched upon, is that don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, IBA is a public sector university. But IBA was able to emerge as an island of excellence despite, I'm sorry to say that, despite being a public sector university, is because of the complete autonomy that IBA management enjoyed. The legacy of merit, the academic autonomy, able to make its own rules to take it forward, minimal or no interference from the government whatsoever. So I think this autonomy, and then some very good people getting attracted to IBA because of this, allowed this public sector university to emerge as it has emerged. I still think IBA is miles ahead of other universities it is still the place to be. It is still providing a tremendous service to the education sector in Sindh and, of course, in Pakistan. But I also want it to become better. And this impression or this perception that perhaps there is an element of slip down or slowing down or all is not well with IBA, all of that should go away. All of that should be addressed. Because IBA, I say this with complete conviction. IBA is still IBA. It is a brand. And we must come together to make it even better. So there is no structural problem with IBA. There are certain issues which must be addressed in time to perhaps make it the best institution in Pakistan and in the region. That's how I see it.
जी शहजाद, can you hear us?
जी आपको मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
जी बिल्कुल आ रही है.
Can you hear? Okay. So I was with IBA from 2001 to 2004 और मुझे अब भी अपने टीचर्स, अपने फैकल्टी आज भी याद है, इवन उनके बहुत सारे कोर्स भी याद है. फजले हसन साहब का के जो जुमला था, डोंट एक्सेप्ट थिंग्स एट फेस वैल्यू, ऑलवेज अप्लाई योर ऑन डिस्काउंट रेट, वो आज तक हमें जुमले तक याद है. नजीब आगरावाला साहब की जो मार्केटिंग थी, जो वो फिलिप कॉटनर से पढ़ाते थे, आज भी उनकी वो जो एग्जांपल्स थी, आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स सोल्यूशन थे, वो आज भी हमें याद है. डॉक्टर काजी मसूद ने जो हमें इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ाई थी, वो आज बीइंग अ क्वालिफाइड चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट as well as a graduate from IBA, आज भी उनकी पढ़ाई हुई इकोनॉमिक्स हमें काम आती है.
लेकिन शहजाद डोरी, मुझे बताइए कि
वो बड़ी रेलेवेंट थी. वो उस वक्त की काफी जो परमानेंट एग्जांपल्स थी, उससे पढ़ाते थे.
लेकिन अशर और शहजाद, मुझे बताइए कि आपको IBA का डिसिप्लिन कैसे याद है? आप क्लास में किस वक्त पहुंचते थे? क्लास में कैसे बिहेव करते थे? ये मुझे बताइए. वो जो सो कॉल्ड ग्रूमिंग थी, उसने आपको कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर में आपका कितना साथ दिया, जिसको आज बाज दफा कहा जाता है दिस इज ओनली डन एट हाई स्कूल्स एंड दिस इज नॉट हाउ यूनिवर्सिटीज. आई एग्री, बट वो भी लेगेसी थी IBA की, वो भी एक चीज थी IBA की जिसने आपको कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर में वो एज दिया. और एम आई रॉन्ग? एंड वी हैव अ कंपैरेटिवली न्यू ग्रेजुएट जो 2019 में थे, तो आप दोनों के एक्सपीरियंसेस में क्या फर्क है?
बहुत स्ट्रिक्ट था IBA, टू मच स्ट्रिक्ट. बहुत ज्यादा बेस्ड, पॉलिसी बेस्ड, बहुत ज्यादा स्ट्रिक्ट था. और डॉक्टर महनाज फातिमा आज भी मुझे याद है वो कितना स्ट्रिक्ट थी. इसी तरह बाकी जो टीचर्स थे, और आई थिंक इट वाज अबाउट द मैनेजमेंट एंड एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, उनका बहुत बड़ा किरदार था. और डिसिप्लिन, यस, वो एक्चुअली हमारी जीन्स में आ गया है. वो डिसिप्लिन जो जिस एनवायरनमेंट में हमारी तरबियत हुई है, उससे हम निकल नहीं सकते. ये हमारा लाइफ टाइम का साथ है. जी अशर, आपके क्या कमेंट है इस हवाले से?
देखिए, मेरा बहुत ही अच्छा टॉपिक छेड़ा है ये डॉक्टर हुमा ने. मेरा वक्त जो था वो डॉक्टर वहाब का वक्त था. And I think one thing IBA was known for that in those times was just discipline. And honestly, I have to be fair that he managed to inculcate a pride in us on that discipline. कि अगर हमारी ग्रेजुएशन सेरेमनी या सेमिनार और उसमें कोई फेडरल मिनिस्टर या गवर्नर या कोई भी आ रहा है, तो वो प्रोग्राम जो है वो बगैर किसी तवक्कुफ के अपने वक्त पे शुरू होता था. और इसी तरह से हमारी 7वीं एब्सेंस पे F मिल जाने के खौफ से हम दौड़ते हुए पहुंचते थे IBA कि कहीं ऐसा ना हो कि इस एब्सेंस की 7वीं एब्सेंस की वजह से हमारा F लग जाए, हम फेल हो जाए. तो ये चीजें बहुत बाद में मुझे ये अंदाजा हुआ कि yes, there were a lot of areas of improvement at that time as well, but at the same time this one particular thing has been phenomenal and has come so handy for me in the corporate life. कि अब शायद मेरी वजह से कुछ लोगों को अभी भी तकलीफ होती हो, लेकिन यकीनन वो बहुत अच्छे अल्फाज में कुछ अरसे बाद याद रखेंगे. बिकॉज आई थिंक डिसिप्लिन is the essence, is the core of doing anything significant in life.
Faraz, you are a new graduate, so to say, ना? ये तो हम तो थोड़े old school हो गए. So what is your take on what you experienced at IBA and how you see it today?
So first, on a lighter note, I think the seventh absence thing is still there. तो वो हमारा भी एक खौफ होता है. So that is that is still there. But yes, I think discipline. If we look at the philosophy of it, it helps you become more organized, and that is to be, I think, enforced. If not the guidelines that we used to have back in time, they can at least teaching the students to be more organized, because I think I remember my first day of corporate life. So when I was in my job on the first day, and I was listening to the guidelines, so मेरे दिल में ये बात आई कि I cannot ask for a repeat of the guidelines, because it will not give out a good impression. While when we are the students, we can always ask the teacher, can you please come back again on the topic, on the idea. So I think corporate life gave me that surprise on the first day only. So I think being organized, being focused is very important, and I think that is the philosophy of being disciplined as well. So that is to be.
Yes, I mean, but because I have seen this transition happening, and Dr. Ishrat also relaxed some of this very rigid discipline that was at IBA, and I think that is taking the legacy forward. That is the challenge, where you are able to achieve this delicate balance between academic freedom, turning this from a high school to a university, which is much larger, has master's programs and has PhD programs, and also taking this
Dr. Ishrat
legacy
also relaxed
for people who were there. So I think that's critical. Achieving one at the cost of the other is not what great institutions do. They carry their history forward and then become responsive to new challenges and adopt accordingly. That's my take on it.
Just some addition on it. So I also got an opportunity to go in exchange program, and I was there in US for one semester. So got to see that comparison as well. So I think you're right. That idea of being focused, being organized, having the right things in your mind at the right time, that is very important. So वहाँ पे policies were a little relaxed, but again the focus is there. The organized management is there. So I think IB ने वो सिखाया है, and that is something that we now pass on to our. I mean, although I'm a young grad, but I can still say we pass it on to our young grads even further now.
सवाल ये कि क्या आज IB ये सिखा रहे हैं, क्या हम वो delicate balance achieve कर पा रहे हैं? That is about taking that legacy forward. Because let going on everything that the brand stood for is not a good strategy.
I think you're right, because जब भी किसी brand की बात होती है, so they have some limitations, some lines around it, and those lines must be respected and must be maintained, so that the idea holds together. Otherwise, if the walls are not there, the idea will not stay intact. So the lines must be managed and must be respected. So I think we don't have a question, but rather a comment, which is coming from Shakil Ahmed Jamali. He says, being IBA graduate, so I think we lost it, but again, he's got a question also. Where do we see IBA in next 10 or 20 years? Ashaar, would you...
Larger, bigger, with great academic leadership, people of integrity in places of leadership. IBA is an asset for Pakistan. We just can't let it go anywhere. We can't let it slip down.
Because the leadership and ideas for tomorrow, they have to be there, even after 10 years and even after 20 years.
Element of continuity also. I think that must be there.
Ashaar, would you like to answer this question?
No, I think Dr. Saiba has answered it pretty comprehensively, but on a different note, with people like you, Faraz, there taking ready to take the baton from us, I think I have every hope in the future of IBA. मैं थोड़ा सा पोइट्री का शौकीन हूँ, तो ज़हीर काश्मीरी साहब ने कहा था कि हमें यकीन है कि हम हैं चिरागे आखिर शब, हमारे बाद अंधेरा नहीं उजाला है.
अभी भी उजाला ही है. उजाले को और रोशन करना है।
और रोशन करना, बेशक।
अशर के रूम में इस वक्त अंधेरा हो रहा है ना, तो उसके हिसाब से ये बात सही है। अच्छा, मेरा ये इसी क्वेश्चन को लेके मेरा इसी क्वेश्चन में आई वांट टू ऐड ऑन दिस क्वेश्चन। देखिए, इन द डिजिटल वर्ल्ड जहाँ पे अब हाइब्रिड एजुकेशन है, ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन है, तो वो जो डिसिप्लिन है कि क्लास में इतने वक्त पे पहुँचना है, तो उसको आप कैसे देखते हैं? क्योंकि आपका जो क्लास में जो अटेंडेंस वाले जो मामलात हैं, आई सी इट इन 10 to 20 ईयर्स वो सारी चीज़ें ऑनलाइन हो जाएंगी या हाइब्रिड हो जाएंगी। तो इन अ हाइब्रिड वर्ल्ड वो कैसे डिसिप्लिन मेंटेन होगा? इन
Is that question to me?
दी हाइब्रिड वर्ल्ड वो क्वालिटी ऑफ एजुकेशन कैसे मेंटेन होगी? इस पे आप सबके थोड़े से व्यूज, आप सबके थोड़े से इस पे कमेंट्स चाहिए मुझे।
अगर आप मुझे इजाजत दें तो मैं रिस्पॉन्ड कर दूं, बिकॉज आई विल हैव टू एक्सक्यूज
जी,
you. You see, those statistics tell us, and COVID-19 and this distance learning, I think it was a wake-up call for all of us, because the loss of learnings that happened convinced the community in the service sector that there will be no substitute to face-to-face teaching. I think that has been that concept has been consolidated. But having said that, I think it is all about not being reactive and responsive to the challenges that come your way. So we will continue to be active on our feet, do this very active footwork to respond to the challenges of the how education is going to be imparted. What is discipline in today's world? And so to say, I firmly believe in the fact, I have a lot of respect for Dr. Wahab. I worked with him at Karachi University. But I think his understanding of what was discipline is perhaps not applicable today. But it also does not mean that discipline should not be incorporated. Or academic rigor is not just about making sure that you enter the class in time and get out of the class on time. So I think those are the new challenges which the new set of academicians and the academic leadership has to respond to, and it's an ongoing thing. So there is no one answer to that, except that there are certain things that you can't give up on, because that has turned made IBA what it was. So my concern here is that, are we letting go on certain aspects of this brand which were critical to it, which of course does not mean that we should not be responsive to the changing requirements of teaching and changing global requirements, so to say. It's a university. Academic freedom should be a part of it. Students should come to the class not because their attendance is important, but because the lecture is so amazing that they want to be there. But until that happens, we have to make sure that they come to the class.
True, absolutely true. I think the principles remain the same for all times to come. Is the form and shape they take that has to be pondered over.
Yes, I will beg you now. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Huma. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Huma. So little comment on the hybrid working that you mentioned, that Dr. Huma mentioned, and how are we going to take it forward in the future. So I believe that discipline actually means having a clock in the mind, and that clock, ensures that you have a predictable day, and that would ensure a predictable future. So IBA enforcing discipline and IBA enforcing a clock is enforcing a good future, a predictable future for the grads, and the quality has to be maintained, and that is what IBA is known for. So I think discipline would always come into the shape of a predictable grad that we all look forward to. Ashaar, would you like to comment something about placements and how you have planned out for the IBA industry linkage, and how you're going to take that forward in terms of execution?
Yeah, I think my few thoughts on that relate to the fact that when it comes to curriculum, when we say Dr. Huma was so right in saying or terming it as lip service, that we need to involve industry consistently and continuously when it comes to starting from curriculum development. That what does the industry require, what are those areas that industry is focused upon, what are those areas which we need to focus on in terms of skills and attitudes as well, in terms of expectations of the industry. Until the time this will not go into curriculum development, we cannot even take off on the right note. Yes, the legacy is there, the reputation is there, the brand is there, but then as the theme remains that we have to reinforce it, and reinforcement starts from very robust involvement of industry in whatever is happening at IBA, because at the end of the day they are the ones who have to take up the grads coming out of IBA. So yes, curriculum is one area where industry linkage is required. The other is also what I highlighted earlier in terms of mentoring and counseling and involving industry leaders into as a guest speakers, and other sessions as well, where they come in and they educate and they make up the minds of the students, not only the faculty, that this is what we look for. This is what we are focused on, and this is what is being provided or supplied by other academia who are in our competition. So we need to focus on that as well. Third and final thing is that we need to pick up the trends. World is changing very fast. The pace has really picked up. It's an ongoing exercise. Every single day that IBA has to indulge in terms of for example, as I have highlighted in my agenda and manifesto as well, that in Pakistan we see under surface right now a very hot scenario for startups, and that's going to be the next big thing. Even as a country, if we have to survive, inshallah, that we will, these startups are going to go in a big way, and they will contribute in a big way to the whole economic scenario. So we need to constantly bring in these things and beef up our students there so that they are ready to step into the practical world.
अच्छा, ये बताइएगा कि अभी जेन जी के लिए और आगे आने वाली जनरेशन्स के लिए आज हम कितने रेलिवेंट हैं? खासतौर पे फराज, आपने जो 2019 में पढ़ा, हमने तो जब पढ़ा था ना, तो जनरल इलेक्ट्रिक की और जो पुरानी स्टोरीज पढ़ी थी हमने, तो हम जब 2000s में पढ़ रहे थे तो हम 80s और 90s की स्टोरी पढ़ रहे थे। तो आपने कौन से ज़माने की स्टोरी पढ़ी है? आपने क्या आज के दौर की फेसबुक और जो आपके इस वक्त की जो जेफ बेजोस और जैक मा, इनको पढ़ा है, या आपको भी वही चीज़ें पढ़ाते रहे?
A very interesting question, I would say. Definitely, some courses have been designed in a way कि हमें बहुत पुरानी चीज़ें भी पढ़नी पड़ी. But I think really happy to also have some courses जिसमें हमने बहुत recent case studies को देखा, and also got to actually put some practicality on it as well. So I mean, if I recall one of my entrepreneurship courses, we also I mean, I would like to take the name also, Dr. Najam Akbar Anjum. He also taught us some local case studies, जो हमारे पाकिस्तान के entrepreneurs हैं, उनकी case studies भी उन्होंने पढ़ाई, and even he gave us projects like building our own business, and I went on to build a brand for wooden sunglasses. I mean, that did not work out, but that was a great I mean, experience to have. So I think the element of practicality always adds the element of having absorbed learning. तो वो learning का part होना चाहिए, and yes, we have had a mix of local and international case studies. I mean, of today and in the past as well.
Great. अशर, मेरा आपसे एक सवाल है कि इफ़ यू आर इन द बोर्ड ऑफ गवर्नर्स इंशाल्लाह, सो कौन सी ऐसी 3 चीज़ें होंगी, कौन सी ऐसी कोई 3 चीज़ें बताइए जो आपकी फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटीज़ होंगी, जो कि आप समझते हैं कि बहुत ही ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है आईबीए के लिए?
Look, from the perspective of Board of Governors or the role of the member of Board of Governors, let me just first give one single comment that as against a common understanding perhaps, or as against some perception that Board of Governors or a member of Board of Governors will transform IBA looking after the operational and executional stuff, that is unfortunately not the case. IBA Board of Governors operates under the IBA Act of 1994, and it clearly spells out the responsibilities of the member of Board of Governors, which relates primarily to policy formulation and strategic stuff. So it's not about, it's about giving direction and vision, and that will be executed by the management of IBA. So first, that is my first bit. My second bit on this, and in line with your question, is that my preferences or my priorities would be around introducing the best practices and basically building on my own strength relating to HR, where the people practices at IBA, whether it's culture development, whether it's development of people, that will be my area of focus and area of priority. When it comes to students, my area of priority would be mentoring them. A serious mentoring sessions at all levels and all classes and in all semesters, depending on their ability to digest that particular stuff, that should be designed. And again, with the help of the achievers and with the help of normal industry members. And third and last thing, very close to my heart, is acknowledgement of alumni of IBA. I think that is going to bring so much of strength to IBA in terms of not only funding and finances, but also in terms of transferring their experience. They are working globally. They are working and instituting best practices. They have been there for ages. So we need to capitalize on that particular experience. We need to capitalize on that shining legacy that they have contributed to various organizations. Why not IBA? So these are my priority areas.
ग्रेट. अगर मैं आपसे 3 चीज़ों में प्रायोरिटी पूछूं और इसकी तरतीब पूछूं तो आप किस तरह से इनको तरतीब देंगे? टेक्नोलॉजी, प्रोसेसेस एंड ह्यूमन, इन तीनों में पीपल
you might
प्रोसेसेस में आप क्या इसको ऑर्डर करेंगे?
You or some people might be surprised with my order, but my order goes like this: human, processes, and technology.
Okay, that's fine.
So systems have to be put in place, and that is done by the humans. So humans have to be developed to put in those systems in places or processes in places. Technology is one of the methodologies or processes of the modern world that we have to undertake, but it can only happen with the right people at the helm.
So I believe we have a question as well, and connecting that with the order. The order was very interesting because you're right that human have to drive everything, and technology. Unless we talk about AI, technology or the processes never have a mind of their own. It is the human that would put the mind into it, and the question how it relates to it. So the question is about the course content that we design for IBA, and how is it competitive and innovative instead of degrees as mostly our education institutes are doing. So it is about IBA versus other institutes, and how do we make our course content more competitive. One comment which I mentioned earlier also was the practicality of the courses that we offer. Other than that, in the times of 90s, Bashar, how was the course content still competitive?
I think a very interesting question, by the way, very interesting question, and it can really, it can really push me into going into some finer areas as well. But a direct answer is that when I compare it with 90s was all around textbooks, was all around the limited case studies in those textbooks. the practical bit that we used to get at all was from magazines in those days. So the likes of World Executive Digest and a bit of Harvard Business Reviews and Business Week, and that's it. So now that knowledge is all around. I mean, it's on the tips now. So that is one area where things have really changed. The other area which I see now happening now, and I would really encourage and appreciate that, that is exchange programs. They actually bring in a lot of wealth of experience. That's what's happening in other institutes around the world. So not only students, I'm not sure, but faculty should also go through those exchange programs. And last but not the least, that the faculty should be focused on doing some primary research, which should revolve around the local case studies, which are so many, right from let's say the likes of Tapal and TCS, and to Lucky Motor Corporation, how Sportage has been launched and how it became a success story. So from all these perspectives, primary research needs to take place, and that needs to happen at IBA with the cooperation of faculty by involving them. I think that will bring a lot of spice and a lot of depth to what is being taught at IBA. So it's not about textbooks will only define now for the times to come the principles. Those principles will always come from Kotler, let's say, but or really and Myers when we talk about corporate finance, but then that has to be built upon, expanded in line with the modern requirements, digital methodology, and local case studies, local success examples. Because when we look at the absorption of IBA grads, other than the ones who are now going in a big way into startups and into entrepreneurial ambitions, we see the future in Pakistan looks like of large local corporates. And from that perspective, local case studies are definitely going to play a very important role in beefing up the curriculum at IBA.
ग्रेट. अच्छा, एक चीज़ बताइए, अगर मैं इन तीन को रखूं, इंडस्ट्री, एकेडमिया एंड द गवर्नमेंट, तो आपको क्या लगता है कि ये तीनों कितने कनेक्टेड हैं, या आपको लगता है कि इनमें गैप्स हैं? और अगर गैप्स हैं तो आपके जहन में क्या विजन है कि इन तीनों को, इंडस्ट्री, एकेडमिया और गवर्नमेंट को, हम किस तरह से करीब ला सकते हैं?
इसमें शहजाद, I think the way forward, in my very humble opinion, is actually taking IBA with a vision from an evolutionary approach towards reducing involvement of government in IBA. I think that is the way forward, in my very humble opinion. Otherwise, the way our governments over the years have performed, their involvement or even consulting them would not really do any good to the legacy of IBA. So IBA has to have more private sector involvement at the board level as well as the management level, and eventually it might turn into a private sector organization as well. Having said that, I'll just start from, since I am a great believer in evolutionary approach, the start should be inducting at least 2 to 3 IBA alumni on the board, and not one, which is the case right now. When I look at the people running for IBA's alumni representative on the board, I find more than one people who have done enough in their careers and practical lives to deserve to be there on the board and then contribute towards IBA in terms of what industry demands. But so that can be the starting point, and then we can build on it further. But yes, the linkage which you're talking about, government, वो जितना मेरे ख्याल से at least with the current state जितना कम हो उतना अच्छा है. Industry के साथ तो it's always the more the better, the more the merrier.
So we talked about industry, academia. I think also the economy and the country that we have contributed to, not just producing leaders for the industry and leaders for the academia. I think we've also produced great leaders for the economy itself and for the country also. And I think the impacts of those people should be captured and should be represented for the coming batches. I mean, I recall it from my time back in 2015 when I was appearing for the interview of IBA. And in my interview, I mentioned about Asad Umar, and I mean, I had a name to look up to. So I think people, not just from the corporate, but also people from the country that we have developed, I think those also should be celebrated, and they also should come back to IBA and support. Also, during my last year at IBA, I was also on a mentorship program where Mohammad Zubair, the ex-governor of Sindh, he was my mentor. So he was the mentor of three people, me being one of them, and we had 2 to 3 sessions of different topics. And I think, if not more, at least there's one thing that I recall from that session that Zubair told us. So he talked about working for the core of the business. So he said, if you are a banker, work for the core function of the banking. I mean, if you are a consultant, work for a consultancy. If you are somebody who's good at marketing, work for a company whose core is marketing. So I think mentorship programs like these, they also help us gain more perspective on what is happening in the industry. So I mean, any comment on the leaders that we have produced for the country, Ashar? And I mean, do we have the potential to produce more of those?
I believe, for us, the glitterati that IBA has produced is endless, and if we start counting the names who have really made it to the top of not only the corporate world, but also in the public sector, also in terms of the leadership of the country, I think IBA has really a legacy to be really proud of. And that's where I started off today's discussion from as well, that we have so much to look up to. The only idea is to optimize on it, is to capitalize upon it, and is to bring it all together so that we can harness that strength and continue to add to this legacy. One person, one individual cannot do it. It's all of us together have to chip in with our bit. I think that is the idea. And that is what we need to make part of mentoring of today's students of IB as well. One day you have to come back. One day you have to come back and contribute to this seat of learning that is one of its kind.
Great. आई थिंक कोई लास्ट कमेंट्स या कोई लास्ट चीज़ जो हम डिस्कस करें. हमने ऑलरेडी 1 घंटा स्पेंड कर दिया है, और अगर कोई क्वेश्चन है, आई थिंक एक क्वेश्चन है किसी का. If you can see actually inside, my question is there any is there any plan to form business incubation center where IBA alumni from different walks of life and students work together for new startups? So that would be our last question for the day. Ashar?
Yes, I think IBA should have been in the forefront as a center of excellence, where an incubation center should have been formed. And because, as I said, these startups are bringing in a lot of foreign exchange. We see almost every third, fourth day. I think it was announced 2 days back as well that Baikia has got $10 million investment. So this is going to be one of the key things contributing, and IBA should take a lead, should go a step forward, and immediately, if it is not already established, it should be immediately established with a robust program. And the young ones who are coming out of IBA only should be encouraged to make that a lab or an experimentation place where they can nurture their ideas, get guidance from the mentors, and step out from IBA with an idea that is ready to embrace the world. So why not?
Excellent, Ashar. Thank you very much, Ashar. Thank you, Faraz. I think we have already crossed 1 hour. Or any last comments you want to give regarding IBA, regarding CFO Club, regarding networking, or anything close to your heart? Both of you.
Faraz, I think you should take a lead in that before I comment on this.
No, I mean, just wanted to thank Shehzad, which we could not in the very start So thank you for inviting, and it was I mean, I'm really happy to be part of such a seasoned panel, and I think if not more, we should at least have these conversations going on that we had today. So these conversations must continue so that we have the flow of ideas coming in. So if not us, anybody else could pick up on the idea and do something better for IBA. And at the very end, I think the intent should not be just serving IBA. The intent should be serving the community, the society that we belong to. And I think we all have the potential, being grads of IBA, to have a wider impact. And the wider impact is the society and the country. So the intent must be there and towards that direction. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Shahzad, my comment is going to be very brief, and that I have tried to highlight right from the beginning that it's IBA is a great legacy, and we need to reinforce this legacy by chipping in with our bit. No matter how much that bit is big or small, but we have to chip in. We have to return. The idea is not to take benefit from IBA and step out and then and never add to that, to this great legacy. The idea is to add to it. Coming to the CFO club, I think led by Shahzad, you're doing wonders from the perspective of connecting people, as I see it. You have that great knack, and you are doing it at various platforms and in various shapes. CFO club is one. I think that has the largest gathering of finance professionals in Pakistan. And also, you are a CFO in your own personal professional career, and also in many other areas that you are contributing. I really commend you, and I at times envy you as well, the way you divide your time and the way you go on and do it. So yes, please keep the good work on and keep adding back to IB as well that you do. So thank you very much for the invitation. I think it was very hurriedly organized program initiated by you, and I'm really thankful and obliged.
Thank you very much. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया for nice comments. Thank you Faraz. आपकी दो जिम्मेदारियां थी एज ए स्पीकर भी और पार्ट टाइम मॉडरेटर भी, क्योंकि मैंने इंटरनेट का कुछ मसला चल रहा. थैंक यू फॉर दैट, एंड वी विल अरेंज सम मोर प्रोग्राम्स. इलेक्शन तो आते जाते रहेंगे, बट ये हमारा कनेक्शन है, ये कायम रहना चाहिए, एंड वी विल ब्रिंग मोर programs on various topics inshallah, including industry 5.0 and the education, the way it should be in going forward. जब टेक्नोलॉजी और हाइब्रिड की हम बातें कर रहे हैं, तो आई थिंक हमें और भी कंट्रीब्यूट करना चाहिए. एंड एक जो पर्पस एकेडेमिया एंड रेगुलेटर कह लें, गवर्नमेंट कह लें, मेरे हिसाब से ये बहुत ज़्यादा दूरी है. पूरी दुनिया में ये दूरी होती है इंडस्ट्री और एकेडेमिया की, लेकिन पाकिस्तान में ये दूरी कुछ ज़्यादा है. तो हमें अपना पार्ट प्ले करना है कि जहाँ तक हो सके हम इस दूरी को कम से कम कर सकें. विद दैट कमेंट, थैंक यू वेरी मच. इजाज़त दीजिए. अल्लाह हाफिज़.
अल्लाह हाफिज़.